Hi. Welcome back to
Hi.
50-50. Hello, dear.
Hi.
So I thought I'd start today with, do you want the good news or the bad news?
Oh.
And then that'll help us with where we start.
Okay.
What do you
I'll go bad news first.
Okay, so the bad news is not actually bad news. It's just me being how I am a lot of the time and talking a little bit about that. So normally when I go to start this conversation, I'll shift my energy and I will get out of whatever's bugging me and start talking to you. And today I thought, let's do an experiment which I question whether it'll be useful for people, but we'll just try and see if we think it is, where I actually come into the conversation with my concerns, with my ego running, with my vulnerability.
Yes, please.
And go, all right, what's it actually like? So there's a couple of things for me at the moment. One is around having self-belief like it sounds, having belief about oneself and not needing external validation. So that's one element. And the other element is the vulnerability around what we do here and the constant question for me around the balance between us having a good time and it being useful for the audience, and how much focus do I have to have on the usefulness for the audience, and I haven't answered that question. So the self-belief piece I think is the work for me to do at the moment. I had a good kick-off because I'm a member of Peter Slocum's Performance Story, and as that you get very good regular articles to read about different topics, and the one I got very recently was around self-belief and how to create it from the inside. And to be honest, I've actually only started using it, so I haven't gone through every element of it and haven't tried to start practicing it. But I think that I've noticed with this podcast a real ebb and flow for me around whether I just have a great time and do it and don't really care, and whether I'm actively concerned how popular it is, are people enjoying it, that side of things. And I can feel as I talk the deadened kind of affect of my body, of my voice, everything else, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me being there and then going, is this a useful place to hang out? And particularly, is it a useful place to hang out when people are listening and hopefully getting a level of entertainment out of what we're doing, right? So it's not a bad point actually to not spend too long there, because what comes up for me quite quickly as I talk about it and be with it and try not to shift it is, oh yeah, that's the ego, that's my insecurity, that's the stuff that likes to make noise. Now what do I want to do apart from that, right? So it's a good segue into the good news, right? So I thought we'd spend longer in the bad news, but I don't need
come
to.
on, let's go.
No, and I don't need to, because I'm like, yes, that's right, Tamara, you've got this story, you've got this insecurity, you've got this worry. I actually also was able to drill down to where the lack of self-belief comes from. And I can't share that for confidentiality, but I will do some work with that, like with my counsellor, by reading more about it. And it's become clearer and clearer to me. I'm not generally worried what people think.
Yes.
I'm upset about one person's opinion, right? And I remember Carly Lyon, who happily has agreed to come on here, is based in Sydney. I remember her talking about this when people were saying, I'm worried how this thing's going to go. And when she drilled down, they were actually only worried about 1, 2 or 5 people.
Right. Yes.
So even though it's meant to be for everyone to listen, and the concern is meant to be, does everyone like this?
Yeah.
Actually, it's not that.
Yeah.
It's not true. And then I heard a guy, which I won't be able to name him or the interviewer, but I'll see if I can add it to the show notes. And he was one of those sort of snippets on Facebook or Facebook Reels or whatever, one sort of clever talking head or clever psychologist talking head. And he said, you're not worried about what other people's opinion of you is, you're worried about what your opinion is of you.
Yes.
And it was like, and then I go, okay, well, how does that tie into what we're talking about in regards to the usefulness of this? Because I think, okay, if I'm living by my own values or what I'm proud of, I always said, and it keeps coming up as the truth, and even as I say it, I can feel it in my body, my job is to share my authentic truth and what I've learnt and how I've overcome difficulty.
Yeah.
But when I go to share it, like I did at the start of today, with nothing over the top, no created energy or no created joy, just being bleh,
Yeah.
I feel like that's where I'll tip into. That is just self-indulgent bullshit. Don't do that.
I disagree. I think that it's a useful life skill to see demonstrated, that drilling down into something's bothering me. What's up? Stopping for a minute. And what I think I've heard you just say is it's this, it's that. Oh, it's this story that keeps coming up for me. I know that story. Thank you, story. Move on.
Yes.
But if you don't stop to have that little conversation that you just had with yourself, it just runs in the back of your mind for days and you're all out of sorts and you're like, why am I out of sorts? Because you haven't stopped to just nip that in the bud. Type of thing. So I think what you just did was a really helpful display for anyone that hasn't done that. Stop. Hang on a minute. What's actually going on? Oh, it's this story. Hang on a minute. It isn't that story. It's only about these people. And then thank you very much, ego. I'm changing direction. That was a really good, real life display.
Okay, good.
I found it very helpful.
Okay, good. I'll take it that it was useful. The fundamental question for me, because I completely agree with you, working through it from the reality of one's current moment is much better than trying to ignore it, move away from it, pretend.
I do that. I do that for days. And then I'm like, why didn't I just address this at the time? This thing that happened tipped me in that direction, and now I've just wasted 3 days ruminating over something that I didn't even really think was a thing, but it obviously is a thing because I'm still thinking about it.
I know. And for you or I, it might be 3 days and we feel the regret of that. And then we're so blessed because for some people their 80-year life is only that.
That's correct.
With moments of breaking out of that for joy or excitement. But
and
most of the
time
is they're just run by their ego because it's the loudest part, right? I mean, it's so much the loudest part. And when you say, oh, I won't stop and then I'll run for 3 days. And as you were saying it felt like you were sort of, at the landmark they'd say, making yourself wrong for that, right? Like I should have snapped out of it earlier. Yeah, maybe you should have. But we all know that train of bullshit is so routine, so habitual, so regular, so ready to go. It's part of our primal system. It's part of our mind system. You're helping me also have compassion for myself, which is lacking at times or often. So, whilst I get you right, snap out of it quicker. Aren't we lucky that we can have the tools to snap out of it all?
One of my stories is why I don't snap out of it earlier, because I believe that I just need to push harder, and the longer that I ignore that, it's a very twisted story. But that too is part of my belief system of why I don't stop earlier. So,
well, you and I were talking about this amazing talk on, we've talked about waking up, we've talked about Sam Harris, phenomenal, both the app and the person. And of course, one can feel confident saying that when we're talking about this particular calibre extraordinary.
Amazing.
Anyone wants the 30-day free trial, let me know. We're not, of course, connected. We might be in the future. But at the moment, there's no benefit to us apart from you getting joy as the listener, you getting freedom. So we were talking about Adyashanti, who's a particularly lovely fellow on waking up, and he has released, or they've released, his latest talk about meditation or being in reality. And it's actually just this fantastic, well, I actually find it hard to talk about because as I'm going to talk about it, I think, okay, imagine how I would talk about it to someone that's never meditated, particularly using mindfulness meditation, but not just mindfulness. If someone's never done that, how would I express what he says? And then if they've done a lot of it, how would I express it? I suppose the most simple way, and you chip in with what you think, please, is he basically says in this talk, unlike what most people have ever heard about meditation and even mindfulness, he talks about actually the thing is to be really in reality and how little time we are.
100%.
So when I listened to it and I thought, okay, being in reality, not meditating our way out of pain, not taking a break from that side of life, but rather going, wow, reality is, he mentions in that talk, he says, anyone who's realise what reality actually is, they found it a surprise.
Yes.
Do you remember that section?
Yes.
What did you take from that when he said that they found it a surprise?
I resonated with that, and I'm trying to think why. I think for me, when I hit those points as well, it's such a... It's not, that whole fluffy, relaxed thing. It's not like any trance or anything. It's just being super connected, super grounded, super like I'm me and connected to everything around me and present. And it is a surprise because it's like you discover who you really are inside and connect with that.
Yes.
And I think it would be different for everybody.
I agree.
And that's why it's a surprise, because it's a part of yourself you don't spend a lot of time, well, I hadn't up until recently, with.
I got the same kind of feeling when I thought about, okay, what's the surprise of reality, and am I really connecting to reality, or just my ego tricking me that I am?
Yeah.
So when I, like Stephen Bodian, my favourite guy for managing emotions, I literally used him this morning again. He has another meditation called Rest and Allow.
Yes.
And in that he goes, don't do anything, just be with what is. And if I can be here right now, and it's difficult as I talk, but if I go, okay, just be here right now, letting everything be as it is, it's like you said, it's not blissful nirvana. It is all the noise, all the sensation, all the beauty, all the connectedness of moving in life in reality. So the reality is, and of course our perspective can never be truly real because everything comes through our eyes.
Yeah.
Like our eyes are upside down, for one. They take in the picture upside down.
When I hear Sam Harris talk about the brain and how we're making sense of the information coming through our senses in this little box in our head, it blows my mind.
Yeah. And it really makes you realise at a whole new level how fictitious the world we're creating is.
Yes.
We are literally creating the colours, the experience. And so at times when I will be, like you said, when I just try to be in life and be in the experience I'm having, at times it'll actually feel like I'm tripping. And I think the reason for that is I think psychedelics and stuff like that allow people to access a different level of looking at stuff. And sometimes it'll be a bit disconcerting at sometimes. Like I was driving along the other day, I live up in the hills, I was driving through the forest and I thought, this feels like I've taken something psychedelic because I felt very connected and it's very, this whole thing, I mean, I suppose we neither have the experience or expertise to talk about it for too long in a useful way. But why did I mention him? I mentioned him because for so many people, the idea of meditation is becoming blissful, becoming quiet in their mind, becoming perfect, becoming godlike. And actually, if one is to believe him or Sam Harris, it is actually about, like the app sounds, waking up to, I'm constantly living in a dream, and if I can be in my actual reality, the peace and opportunity of connected of that, even when the current reality isn't a pleasant one.
Yeah.
So it's quite extraordinary.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
So were you going to say something?
I was going to say that it's that being in the moment thing, and I've lost my train of thought.
It's all right. It'll come back. It'll come back. So
big night last night. Sorry, Tam.
That's right. No, I'm very pleased. It sounded good. I mentioned Adyashanti because as I was describing being in this sort of sludgy kind of I'm not good enough, I'm going to go and eat worms kind of feeling, concerned, egoic space. I was thinking about, when I said to you, do you want the good news or the bad news? Have you got your thing back?
I have.
Okay,
and
go.
You know what?
What?
It's a story. Like the reason that we were talking earlier about ruminating for 3 days rather than dealing with it.
Yes.
And the reason that being with yourself is a surprise is because I have this belief that being in current reality is scary. So that's why I blanked out on it, because as I was going to say it, my brain went, oh, no, you can't do that. It's scary.
That's right. Don't mention that.
Don't mention that, because that's a truth for me.
Yes.
Because I think being with I've had a couple of difficult years,
Yes.
as you know, my personal life story.
Yes.
And so being in my body, being present with my emotions
Yes.
when there was stuff going on was something I didn't want to do.
Yes.
And I ran away from it.
Yes.
So I was in flight, you know.
Yes.
Oh, here's an emotion. Let's run away from that. Let's
Yes.
shove that one down.
Yes.
So I think, like Adyashanti was saying, the surprise is when you actually sit with it,
Yes.
it's actually not that bad.
I know.
And sometimes it's actually good. Like the thing that you thought was going to be really bad and scary or whatever, if I just sit with my emotions, even when I'm feeling really crap,
Yes.
actually is freeing.
Yes.
And you feel expansive. And that very much caught me off guard. And even though I know this now, having experienced it several times, the initial instinct is to run away.
That's right, because the ego is always the initial instinct.
Yeah.
So the survival part of us is always the initial instinct. I actually got the other day that really I need to stop pummeling my ego. I need to just go, it's okay, thanks for trying to help.
Yes.
Because
Thank
I
you.
actually,
Yeah,
I felt actually really sad how badly I've spoken to myself. And by myself, I
Yes,
mean my
yes.
protective ego, like, fuck off.
Yes.
And actually it's just the poor little thing is there going, I'm just trying to keep you safe and you keep abusing me.
Yeah. Yeah. That time you don't get hit by a car, that's me.
Right?
Like,
That was
I'm
me.
just trying to help you out, people.
Yeah, and you told me you wanted to survive this particular way when you were younger, and I've been doing that ever since.
Protecting
Why
you.
are you so
keeping
shitty
you
with
safe.
me?
Yeah.
Being great.
Yeah, I'm grateful.
Really,
I'm grateful.
really ungrateful. But that thing that you said, there's two elements of that popped up. One is just how loud the ego is versus reality and how much it'll just want to. I feel like it's kind of the ego is you're at the top of a water slide, you get a trigger, and the guard or whoever's at the top goes, okay, go. The ego goes, and the instinct to be something else is trying to sort of stop you on that slide.
Yeah.
It's so much more subtle. It's not a good analogy because you can stop and go, hang on. But the loudness of the ego versus the quiet voice of the self, the true self, and that's why we need to have as you and I believe, we need to have practices that allow us to stop and access the real self. So Stephen
I think that
Bodian,
was a good analogy. Like
the
that
water slide.
The water slide takes you and you are going, but there's a moment that you can say, hang on a minute, there actually is no water slide.
Oh, that's what you're going to do with it. There is no water slide.
This water is not running fast. It's
Ooh,
just
that's
me
a good
just
one.
gone, phew. That's immediately when you
Because I was
said
going to
that.
say, I don't know
'Cause
how
that's
the
how it
true self
feels.
hops on the slide
No,
too.
I feel like that not only am I at the top of the slide, that the lifeguard goes, it's your turn, and he pushes me. And I am
You're going.
gone.
Yeah.
But it's that moment that you go, hang on a minute, brakes are on.
Yeah,
There is
yeah.
actually no water slide. I've just made this whole water slide up.
Oh, yeah, that's
It
clever.
doesn't actually
That's
exist.
clever. I also like the water stopping as an analogy. Like just this little trickle happens and you see there going, trying to stay with your ego. You're like, hey, turn
the water back on.
Turn the water back on. And something else goes, let's not turn the water back on. Let's listen to our Stephen Bodian, or let's have a discussion here, or let's, because that's what it is, right? It's keeping coming back. So as human beings, we have these brains, we have our egos, emotions, thoughts, fears, insecurities, primal selves. That's never going to stop being the case. I did a program last weekend that you recommended to me. I'm very grateful you did. I did it with a company called True North with Linda and Craig, which was wonderful and really one of those perfect timing kind of things. And you had said to me, oh, you're going to go 1,000,000 miles an hour once you've got this because you act
You're
like
already
it
there.
often, right? And it was my experience largely of being able to go, oh, I get it, I can apply it, I get it. There was very little resistance in me until I went deaf. And when I went deaf, it was because Craig was talking about how creating structures and patterns make things work, right? And I put my hand up on the course and said, I just need to let you know I haven't heard the last 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah. Because what I realised was I don't like structures. I like being seen as loosey-goosey. I don't mind even being seen as silly as long as I'm not seen as structured.
Yes.
So I realised both where that came from, but also, sadly, I saw the enormous impact of being stubborn around structures and how many things I haven't done or haven't done my best at or haven't been created for me because I will not create a structure.
Yeah, that was profound.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, God. And I'm still battling with it. It's good news for Andy because he wants to create structures for Discern to roll more easily, and I'm always very resistant.
Yeah.
And I made it like how a lot of this stuff works is we'll make a decision at a certain point. I'm not this, right?
Yeah.
And so I did that at some point, really made that decision. And since then, I've had no freedom around it, right? So it's like Linda said on the weekend, you're still making a choice.
Yeah.
You're still using a structure.
Yeah.
You're using the I have no structure. So, yeah, it's like, oh, God damn it. I literally said, I'm going to listen to this section of the course again, guys, because I didn't hear a word.
Yeah.
Whereas everything else, I was like, this is awesome. Got it. I'm going to apply it.
And then you hit your thing.
Hit my thing.
And everyone's thing is different.
Right.
Everyone's thing is different. And when you hit your thing, it's like your brain just goes, blinds up. No,
it does.
No comment.
No further questions.
No further questions.
It was literally that. I didn't hear him. And then a part of me went, you haven't heard anything for the last 5 or 10 minutes.
That's weird.
Then I comment on it. We laughed, of course, because it was very clear what had happened.
And yes.
But I've got a note, listen to this section again. It was, 5 days ago I did the course. I haven't listened to that section again.
Yeah, resistance,
So it's really, but I have done my activity each day. So they create an activity where you make choices for the day, very powerful, very useful, very connected to what we're talking about.
Yes.
The ego wants to think X, Y, or Z. We can make a different choice. The ego, I really found useful that the ego is very strong in the morning when you first wake up, because I've always struggled when I wake up not to be in a bad mood, even if I've got a good day ahead.
Yes.
And they really help me see, no, when you wake up, like from a cave person point of view, where are you? Where's the saber-toothed tiger? Where's the next meal? It's not a relaxed thing to wake up.
Yeah.
So we do this practice first thing in the morning, and, of course, you can find out more about this if you have a look at True North.
Yeah. I'll put some stuff in the show notes.
Yeah, put some stuff in the show notes, because really this kind of stuff is a lifesaver, and I mean lifesaver, like
100%.
a lifesaver.
Yeah.
Right? A
Yeah, it has been for me.
lifesaver.
Yeah.
Because instead of being run by what we're talking about, this pain and question and jealousy and whatever's going on for us, and just being in this level of pain and survival all the time, you can actually choose something different. And it's very exciting.
Yeah.
And as I shared at the beginning of this, I saw this graph the other day about when you're trying to do something you love, and it doesn't go up like that, it goes up, down, and that's been my experience. I go, oh, this is fun, isn't it? Oh, what the fuck, I don't know what's going on. Oh, isn't this awesome? We're back. You know, we've got a new idea. We're going to do something. That's great. Oh, no, why am I sharing this? I'm an idiot. No one's going to want to hear this. Oh, yeah, this is awesome. Okay, I better start believing in myself, because I can't get enough external validation. And on we go. And on we go, right?
On we go.
And, of course, one of the things on the weekend, which was a surprise, and I think is in play with me at the moment, is, as I shared with you personally, you know, one of the meditations we do is having a look at what we'd like in our life.
Yes.
And 2 things came up that were a surprise. One that came up was that I want to write a book.
Yeah.
Writing books is not an uncommon thing at all, but it really came up as a really joyous thought. And the other part that came up was that the podcast didn't come up in that meditation. And I don't want to stop doing this, but I also thought, and I discussed with you off air, I always had the feeling pretty much as soon as we started this, I thought this is going to change quite quickly.
Yeah.
And I've been surprised by the pace of that.
Yeah.
You know, like we haven't been doing this long, and I'm like, oh, other ideas are starting to come in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, we're not applying. What do you say when you're putting something into action? We're acting on one of them, but that's not the word I was looking for, where we actually separate out Friday 50-50, which this will be one of.
Yes.
And then we've still got a number of fabulous guests lined up, certainly through the rest of this year and starting into next year.
Yeah.
And I'm really enjoying those conversations. And my favourite thing about it is giving them an opportunity to talk about what they do, but also be acknowledged for what they do. You know, I like being able to do that for people as a part of it.
Yeah.
But we're already into mystery time now, as in what's going to be the next thing.
Yeah, and isn't that fun?
Yes.
And isn't it fun
Asterix.
to be doing that together?
Yes.
Like I think Linda put a post up from True North the other day about, you are the 5 people or whatever that you hang out with and how true that is. And when you kind of meet someone who's also exploring that stuff at the same time as you, how like motivating that is and supportive that is.
Yeah,
and,
it is.
Yeah, so that's really nice. Thanks, Tam.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Tam.
Thank you. No, it's really awesome. It's really awesome, and it's really difficult. That's how I'm finding it.
Yeah.
And it's is what people talk about. If you're gonna, we've used risk it for the biscuit.
Yes.
But now we're in it, and it's joyful, and it's not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah.
That's how I'm finding it.
Yeah,
It's
we're
like,
in the arena, as Brene would say. We're in the
arena.
arena. And there's a certain amount of discomfort in that. I was reminding myself of that yesterday. Actually, when you had a conversation with me yesterday, that kind of prompted me.
Yeah, when I did the little mini coach.
Because I confided I hadn't been doing my choices on my bridges and for a few days, and I figured out the trigger for that was like a personal thing that had happened a few days ago that I hadn't dealt with.
Okay.
As soon as I dealt with it, back on track.
You go.
But yeah, you need that little point in the right direction, and people rooting for you.
But when you just said it's true, and you said in my mind this is what we talk about with the true self. It can be slippery. It goes away because the ego wants to come in and swamp it like a wave. Like it's like a little turtle and a wave. And the little turtle's like, I got to be me. I believe, man. The wave goes, and the turtle's like,
you're done.
No, I'm going to be me. We shouldn't use that analogy because I think 1 in 1,000 turtles survives the ocean. But maybe that is a good analogy because not everyone can follow their dreams, can they? Because they're like a little turtle in a wild ocean. Now I've even distracted myself further by telling that story.
Have you caught my hangover?
No, I wish. I've been doing this thing where I'm asking my body what it wants to eat so I can have a more intuitive way of eating and stop yo-yo dieting and all the rest.
Yeah.
So honestly, it's so puritanical, particularly the first few days. All it wanted was fruit and water. It didn't want coffee, but I ignored it. It didn't want tea. I ignored it. It said I could have chai, so I had a good chai often. Then it surprised me. I realised it was actually quite willing to be reasonable because one morning I woke up and it goes, that HelloFresh you've got to make for dinner, which was pork schnitzel with cabbage and mash, you can have that for breakfast if you want. And I said, what do you want? It goes, I want some protein because we've been doing this, drinking 14 litres of water a day. My body's so thirsty. It's obsessed with water. So I have another drink. Oh, awesome. My God, no wonder they say that. Anyway, so but why were we talking about that? Oh, now I've really got lost.
You have caught my hangover.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because I was going to say my body doesn't like drinking, but it did let me have a beer. I was pleased with it. And then I said to Grayson earlier today, I had total connection with my body. I was like, this is going to be a piece of cake. I'm going to end up like a stick because my body's going. Anyway, last 2 days, not a word.
Oh,
can't access it at all. And my theory is...
It got what it needed.
Well... But I don't feel like it wants me to go nuts, but it's much harder to access. I think it's hormonal.
Oh, yeah.
That's my guess. Yeah. Or anxiety/hormonal.
Yeah.
I'm finding it much harder. Maybe after this I'll be able to get back in touch with it. Oh, yeah, it wants a drink. Yes, water. Okay.
Yes, I was at a 50th birthday party last night, which is why I've had a few drinks, which is unusual for me.
I know. For you, it was a big night.
Everybody was talking about hormones, perimenopause, menopause, and all of the friend group in sort of a 7-year age gap is all at various stages of that. And that was just like, everyone was like, oh, is this happening to you? Is this happening to you? Oh.
It's all suddenly coming to the light. They've even got a bill in Parliament at the moment about increasing. So if the information's true, GPs get 1 hour training on menopause in 6 years.
I heard that. This is huge for us women. Like... So many mental health issues come out of this.
Oh, yeah.
It's phenomenal. And you hear about, and also I think from, like we've had Ash and a few other people on, for me, I kind of feel that a lot of women are coming into their power at work in their career in this sort of, 45 to 55 age group. It's when we're at the top and it's when you get slammed by this stuff.
Oh, no.
And
I'm always thinking about Angela Merkel, you know, the German Chancellor.
Yeah.
She had to have gone through menopause while she was the most powerful woman. So it's wonderful. It's coming out into the light. There's a lot more support. It'll get better and better. The generation that's 1 or 2 under us will have a completely different experience of perimenopause and menopause. But I still feel grateful to be in this generation, because certainly in our parents' one, you just didn't talk about it at all.
Yeah.
Didn't get help and didn't talk about it.
There's books, you can YouTube, you can search for a doctor who has a specialty in this area.
Yeah, you can. And you know what's going to be the difference? Now it's very dear to get someone who's an expert.
Oh, is it?
Like very dear. For people that don't have money, it's prohibitively expensive.
Yeah, right.
But your average GP can help with hormone replacement and stuff like that. But if you want, like, it's kind of like going to Macca's versus, sorry, GPs, I don't mean Macca's. I mean, where's somewhere I'm trying to...
Grilled?
Grilled. It's like going to Grilled, or it's like going to a Michelin-starred restaurant in terms of what food you're getting for your body.
I do love Grilled.
Oh, Grilled is awesome. I wanted to say something else, and I can't remember what it was. It was ego, vulnerability, being your true self.
Is it about your resistance to hearing some of that stuff at True North? Like you shut down over
the structure?
No.
Oh,
Tam, there's no structure to our podcast today.
Normally I have complete faith that it's going to come back to me what I was going to talk about. And now I've got this hopeless feeling like it's not coming back. I think it must have been one of the slippery ego things.
It has.
I drowned my turtle.
Yeah. Can that be the title for this episode?
Drowning
turtles.
Drowning my turtle. Drowning turtles. Yeah, drowning turtles. That's awesome.
Is not going to play well. Oh, it might go viral though.
Drowning
for
turtles.
All the wrong reasons.
Wrong reasons, yeah. We get our first ever hate mail. We don't need hate mail. Thank you.
No.
Well, I think I'm just going to have to go with what I don't like and have it incomplete and not remember what I was going to say.
You don't need to know. That's something else I learned from all of that stuff.
Uncomfortable. This is challenging my good girl get it right stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, this is so meta.
What's the good news? Hang on. What was the good news? We started with the bad news.
Yeah, no, we went quickly into the good news. We just circled back. So the good news was around doing the course.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
right.
And the benefit of that.
Yes.
And connected to that, one thing that I didn't talk about, which is a broader conversation, but maybe as an intro to it, really looking at the difference in life between being a creator in your life versus being a victim.
Yeah.
And the more you realise both being in reality, there's things I can control and things I can't, and I'll forget about the things I can't, and then I'll act on the things I can. When you really get that, it's actually really hard to listen to people whinge.
Yes.
Because it's like, if you can't do anything about that, forget it. And if you can, why don't you do something about that?
Yeah.
Because it's because you can really see much more clearly. And I was talking to a girlfriend yesterday, and she was my ILP coach in Landmark. And ILP was no joke. It was Introduction Leaders Program, ran for 6 months. It was incredibly hard, and you really got an understanding around responsibility at the end of that that's never shifted for me. It was the most difficult and useful course I've ever done, and it makes me. It's not that I'm not a victim. I'm often a victim, but I have a much greater clarity around my responsibility in my life, and that I create my life.
Yeah.
And I imagine if more and more people could get that, the joy of it, but also the lack of burden then on other people listening to their shit over and over, you know?
Yeah.
And
100%.
that feels ironic because I talk about my shit here all the time. But
usefully.
Well, I try to. That's the point. Right? It's meant to be useful.
Yeah, it's like if we take it back to the waterfall analogy, you know, and I was saying, you know, you're on that waterfall, someone's pushed you down there, water slide, and you're off. And then it's not only getting to the stage where you're like, oh, hey, I can stop the waterfall. The waterfall isn't here. But I actually want to be on a beach somewhere. I don't even want to be on this waterfall anymore. And you creating your own story and your own reality can be that powerful that you can go, not only am I not going to be on the waterfall, I am going to be somewhere better of my choosing. And that was the revelation to me that not only can you just create your reality by stopping what you're doing, but you can create a whole other one.
Yes.
If you choose it, which I'm still struggling with, but I know that can happen now, and that has changed my perspective.
I think that what is the training? The training is the ego has had the reins forever, for hundreds of thousands of years. We now know that it's still got its power, but by acknowledging it, we can become freer of it. Yeah. And it's a new idea around actually creating the life we want, and that is possible. And that is new. Yes. Comparatively. So, it's wonderful to be able to have access to it and to be on the up and down journey around what it looks like. And, of course, you and I will be able to share stories over time around what have we created and what haven't we.
And you're right now, we live in a society, in a world where we actually have time to contemplate those sorts of things. You know, right. We're not at war, things aren't, cascading around us, where we can actually go, oh, I'm going to create this.
And how will, like you said to me once, and we'll end here because Grayson put the sign up maybe 4 hours ago for 20 minutes. When we, when the thing I loved is when you said, when you're doing what your heart calls you to do, you will have the best impact on other people. Yep. And I question it, of course, like I did at the beginning of this podcast, but when I sort of settle back into it and go, what is it I think I'm meant to do? What brings me most joy? The thought that will bring others the most joy, because when you take responsibility for your own life and try and be the most empowered you can, of course that means there's less burden on other people. There's more positivity, there's more positive impact.
Yes, and I certainly noticed that change around me too.
Yep.
When I changed in myself, all of a sudden relationships that had been difficult or hard before got a whole lot easier very quickly.
Amazing, right?
And once that happens, you're like, this what the? How did I not know about this stuff before?
I had a fellow and I, who I've never met before, an old fellow and I, came to a cafe at the same time yesterday, the day before. Yeah. And he said, oh, good morning. I said, good morning to you. And he said, I've missed you. And I said, I know, it's been so long. And I said, I can't remember your name. And he said, I can't remember yours either, right? We've never met before. Anyway, we said, well, we've come to the right place, haven't we? And off we went. And I thought, it's such a simple thing, but that doesn't happen if the energy you're giving out is woe is me or everyone's effed, or it just doesn't happen. So I noticed those sort of even small things will happen. And it's quite a beautiful way to live. It's a beautiful way to live.
So beautiful.
And here endeth the lesson.
Great episode, Tam.
Thanks.
Loved your vulnerability.
Thanks. We've got to keep doing what feels right, don't we? It's always a pleasure. I feel better now.
So do I.
Cool.
So do I.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.